Lovely to see you again. So this one's a Tony Stark / Peter Parker fic. It is explicit, so be aware of that beforehand. This one is called Tony Stark is not dating Peter Parker by Tony Stark is a slut. Summary. A prompt where Peter and Tony start dating but don't realise it. They cancel a lot of dates to be with each other. Peter sleeps over a lot and eventually sleeps in the same bed as Tony. Finally, Peter moves in. They share lube for masturbating and hear each other sometimes. They even watch porn together and try to reason it as normal for friends to give each other a hand. They give each other massages at night and cuddle, and in the mornings they still don't realise they're basically in a relationship. Notes. I changed this slightly to where Peter knows and Tony doesn't. Chapter 1. Tony Stark is not dating Peter Parker. For one thing, the kid is in no way, shape or form attracted to an old man like Tony. For another, Tony is going on other dates. So what if he sometimes cancels said dates because Peter wants to hang out? Doesn't mean anything. So what if Peter ditches his own dates to work in the lab with Tony? That doesn't mean anything either. The kid is ambitious, curious, and smarter than Tony himself. Of course he wants to be in the lab. Duh. So what if Tony asked him to move in after Thanos? He's an Avenger now. The kid deserves it. And if Peter's room is on the other side of the wall of Tony's room, that doesn't mean anything either. They're just saving space, obviously. And so what if Peter borrows his lube sometimes? They both like lube with their hand jobs. It's not a big deal. I mean, who doesn't use lube for a hand job? Sure, Peter could possibly buy his own, but why would he? Tony has a bottle, so he can use that one. And maybe Tony likes to listen to Peter get off, but that's Tony's problem, not Peter's. Tony Stark is not dating Peter Parker. And okay, maybe it's weird that Peter started sending Tony links to porn that he thought the older man might like. But, what are friends for? Friends help each other out. And Steve even said something about friends helping each other out in the army in more intimate ways. It's completely platonic. Tony knows that. Peter is just giving him a hand sometimes, and Tony is being a good friend and repays the favour. That's what friends do. You know what else friends do? Give massages. Pardon me. Apologies. You know what else friends do? Give massages. His mother used to give him massages when she was still alive. It's completely innocent and platonic. Nope. Tony Stark is not dating Peter Parker. So what if Peter sleeps in his own room? So what if Peter stops sleeping in his own room to sleep in Tony's bed? The kid's probably just tired after helping each other out. So what if Peter kisses someone on the lips? He kisses May on the lips too. It's platonic. Tony is sure. And if they wake up cuddling in the morning, that's just sleepy bodies doing what sleepy bodies do. They search for warmth and comfort. Friends cuddle, yeah. Tony Stark is not dating Peter Parker. Nope. Peter would never like him like that, right? So if Peter calls him babe and darling, that's platonic, right? He's heard Thor call his brother those things. Platonic. And if Peter makes out with him on the couch, that's just a warm-up for helping out a friend, right? Platonic. So when Peter introduces Tony to one of his friends as my boyfriend, Tony almost goes into cardiac arrest. Or at least that's what it feels like. He knows what cardiac arrest feels like. We're dating? Tony asks. Peter gives him a look, like Tony is the most unbelievable person in the world. And he turns back to MJ. He's a dumbass, ignore him. Okay, so maybe, just maybe Tony Stark is dating Peter Parker. So, that was chapter 1, and this is chapter 2. Peter Parker is totally dating Tony Stark. Peter's point of view. When Peter Parker started dating Tony Stark, it felt like his whole world had imploded. He couldn't seriously be this happy. He just couldn't. Things didn't happen to Peter. Not like this. But then it was real. One day, Peter had been dating around like it was normal, and Peter complained... One day, Peter had been dating around like normal, and complained to Tony, "I'll never find anyone worth my time." And when Tony had said, "Accept me, right?" And sure, it kind of sounded like a jokey tone, but every time Peter went on a date after that conversation, Tony asked him to hang out in the lab. And when Tony went on dates, all Peter had to do was ask him to come over and he'd ditch the date. So Peter was just about to ask Tony himself to go exclusive when the older man beat him to it by just asking him to move in. Quite a leap in their relationship. You really want me to move in with you?" Peter squeaks, blushing quite a bit. Tony coughs and scratches the back of his head. Yeah, of course. I mean, you're an Avenger now, right? You should be living in the tower. Peter jumped out of his chair in excitement, turning to May, whom the couple was eating dinner with. "May!" he says in a way too high-pitched. May laughs, stands, and hugging Peter, and a peck on his... May laughs and stands, hugging Peter and pecking his lips. "I'm so happy for you, kiddo," she says. "I always knew you would get together," she teases, ruffling his hair. Peter turns and hugs Tony, kissing him on the lips, softly, full of excitement. It's his first ever kiss with Tony, and it was so sweet. He turns around to May without glancing at Tony again, excitedly talking about how he's moving in. Peter was more than a little disappointed when it turned out moving in meant the room next to Tony's. But then Peter thought to himself, maybe he just wants to give me my own space, and he was happy again. Peter Parker is totally dating Tony Stark. Peter was getting impatient. He's sure that Tony is moving at a snail's pace because he doesn't want to pressure the younger man, but still. So Peter decides to take the step for himself. He knocks on Tony's door, smiling when it's opened immediately. He leans up and kisses his boyfriend softly on the lips, smiling as it makes Tony blush quite a bit. Tony Stark, playboy, blushing over a little peck from Peter. Wow. Peter clears his throat and puts a hand on Tony's chest. "Have you got any lube?" he hints. Well, it's not a subtle hint, but it's not like he's outright said, "Fuck me now, please," to him. Tony blushes and clears his throat. "Oh, yeah, wait here." Peter was confused, blinking after Tony, even more confused when Tony handed him a bottle. "Here you go," Tony says, looking at the bottle and not Peter's face. "It's water-based, I hope you don't mind." Peter blinks and looks at the bottle, before back up at Tony. "You're just giving it to me?" he asks, voiced a little high-pitched. Tony shrugs. "Just give it back when you're done," he says, before closing the door again. Peter frowns, more than a little lost. What the fuck was that? Peter was about to knock again when Friday helpfully informs him that Tony's taking care of a private matter at the moment. And then it clicks. All walls are soundproof except for the one between Tony and Peter's room. Peter gasps and runs to his room excitedly, slamming the door and stripping quickly. What's a bit kinkier than anything he's done before? Masturbating to each other getting off, pretending like the other doesn't know about it. But honestly, it's exciting. Peter had the best orgasm of his life that night, jerking himself off with Tony's lube, listening to his boyfriend's breath hitch every time Peter moans. Taking this kinky thing very seriously, Peter decides to do his research. He watches so many porn videos with loads of different kinks in them and sends them through a text to Tony, at first just testing the waters. Once he's sure he's got most of Tony's kinks locked in, he makes his next move. He takes a bottle of lube and his phone to Tony's room, knocks on the door. The older man opens the door with a smile, looking a little confused. "Hey kid, what's..." Peter cuts him off with a soft kiss, before pushing Tony back. "I have another video I want for you to watch." Peter purrs softly. Tony raises a brow before sitting on the bed. Okay?" he asks. "Just send it to..." He sits on the bed next to Tony, dropping the lube between them. He starts the video on his phone and hands it to Tony. Tony looks at Peter warily before turning his eyes to the video. Peter takes his cock out, spreading the lube on his hand, where he slowly starts jerking himself. He knows Tony won't last long. This hits at least 3 of his kinks. Daddy kink, larger age difference, spanking, rope play, and dirty talk are main features of this video. Tony's breath hitches as he watches the screen intensely, transfixed. Peter is a little offended that Tony won't look at him, but prides himself on finding a video that makes Tony this horny. Peter accidentally came before he could even touch Tony, but Tony wasn't any further behind, so he supposes it was okay. But then Tony stood up. "Oops, sorry, just a friend. I have a meeting." But then Tony stood up, fixing his pants. "I have a meeting. I meant to tell you before you came in, but you distracted me." Peter laughs, basking in the afterglow. "Alright, baby. I'll see you later." Peter smiles and leans into Tony, cuddling close. He hums happily as Tony's arm rests around his shoulder. He's so happy Tony is his boyfriend. "Babe?" Thor says, sticking his head in the living room. "Oh, hello, my friends. Have either of you seen my brother?" Peter perks up. "Loki's in your bedroom," he says, wiggling his eyebrows. "He says he has a surprise for you." Thor's face grows dark with lust. He grins like a shark. "Thank you, little spider. I'll go see him at once." Peter grins and watches him go. He sighs and looks up at Tony, wishing he could be confident enough to surprise Tony like that. Tony looks up at Peter and smiles. Sorry? Tony looks down at Peter and smiles. "What's up?" he asks. Peter shrugs, cuddling him again. "I think I pulled a back muscle," he whines, "while I was swinging around." Tony coos. "You want a massage?" he asked. "My mother taught me how." Peter blushes and lights up. Finally, getting naked with Tony. "Yes," he says, voice high-pitched. "Yes, please." Tony pouted when the massage was over. Peter pouted when the massage was over, and Tony didn't feel up Peter's ass. I mean, come on. Peter's ass was right there, round and fat and practically begging to be groped. Lame. But Peter turned around and pulled Tony onto the bed. reaching into Tony's pants. "Thank you, darling," he whispers into the kiss. "Thank you for taking care of me. Let me make it up to you." Tony's breath hitches. You don't have to." Peter giggles and jerks Tony's cock. "I know." The first time they had sex together in the same room, actually touching each other, was kind of underwhelming, all things considered. Peter expected to be taken, to be fingered in the very fucking least, but no, they jerked each other off and made out. It wasn't all bad in truth, it felt good, and Peter got to curl up and cuddle Tony to sleep. Peter kept doing that, in fact, every day. He jerked Tony off, made out with him until his head spun, and cuddled him to sleep. It was a snail's pace for sure, but Peter Parker is totally dating Tony Stark, and he loves him. After a month of nothing more than handjobs and making out, Peter is frustrated. So the next time they have sex, Peter brings it up. "Babe, don't you want to put it in me?" he coos in Tony's ear. Tony splutters, blushing from the neck to the forehead. "No!" he says. And Peter pulls back because, ouch, he didn't have to sound so scandalized. "Why not?" he asked sadly, hand coming away from Tony's dick. "I mean, don't you think that sounds a bit too far?" he says, looking away. "That doesn't sound like a good idea." Peter fights back tears. What's wrong with Peter's ass that Tony can't even... Oh, duh. Tony wants to bottom. That's why he's acting like that. Oh, okay. Peter starts joking Tony again. "I see," and says, kissing him. Tony moans into the kiss, backing up his hips into Peter's fist. Peter reaches around and rubs a lubed finger over Tony's hole, smirking as Tony whines and grinds into his touch. "Fuck, kid, what are you..." "Shh, it's okay," Peter whispers. "Does that feel okay?" Tony nods, grinding down onto his fingers. This is okay. You want this?" Peter laughs and nods. "Yeah, this is okay," he promises. Peter went to bed extremely happy. He didn't get to fuck Tony, but he got to blow him, and he got to finger him, which is 2 steps forward at once. It felt so nice taking care of Tony. Peter smiles and waves MJ down, tugging Tony along. They had been on another lunch date, like they do every Wednesday. Sorry, stumbling over my words. Peter smiles and waves MJ down, tugging Tony along. They had been about to go on another lunch date, like they do every Wednesday, when Peter saw her. "Hey, MJ." MJ looks up and grins. "Hey, loser, how's it going?" Peter grins and hugs her before pulling back again. "It's going great," he says, "and you?" MJ nods. "It's going alright. I have a new boyfriend. His name is Brad. Can you believe that?" she said, making a face. "Brad. I can't believe I agreed to date a Brad. What's the world come to, Peter?" Peter snickers and holds Tony's hand. "Well, this is my boyfriend, Tony. And this is MJ. She's..." "Wait!" Tony blurts out, eyes wide. "We're dating?" he asks, voice incredulous, like he can't believe it. Suddenly, everything Tony's been saying and doing lately makes so much more sense. He gives Tony a suffering look, an exhausted one. Then he turns back to MJ, who's looking at Tony like he's stupid. "Ignore him, he's a dumbass," Peter says. "We've been dating for a fucking year and he thinks we aren't boyfriends. Yes, we're dating, Tony." He shakes his head. "Well, anyway, I'll see you later." Good luck with Brad. MJ punches Peter lightly on the shoulder, giving Tony another look. Later, losers. At the table, having already ordered lunch, is when Tony finally finds his words again. We're dating? He asks again, a giant smile on his face. Tony, of course we are. We're exclusive. You asked me to move in. We have sex all the time. We kiss and cuddle. Baby, I thought you wanted to take it slow. Tony looks dizzy, like he might pass out. You're my boyfriend, he says. He doesn't ask. Upgrades, people, upgrades. He laughs softly. I thought we were just friends. Peter rubs a hand over his face. You're so dumb. He laughs, leaning over to kiss him. No, you're my boyfriend, and you can kiss, and only you can kiss and date me, like we've been doing for the past year. Tony shakes his head and laughs, again sipping his later. Oh, thank fuck we're dating, he says, a bit too loud for a public place. I've been in love with you all of this time, and I thought we were just friends. Peter smiles fondly and holds Tony's hand. I love you too, dumbass. Well, thank you very much for listening. Like I said, once again, this was by Tony Stark is a Slut. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry about the stumbling. It's late. I forgot to drink water today, which probably isn't good, especially considering how much I'm talking. Anyway, now I'm starting to ramble. Thank you very much for listening, and good night.